Good morning, starshines. My name is DH, my pronouns are they, them, and I play cozy games. And I knit. I'm so excited to bring you a weekly craft night over on Twitch. It's going to be every Monday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/thecozydh. Bring your project, bring something to stay hydrated with, but most importantly, just bring yourself. So yeah, I just wanted to pop on tonight, listen to some lo-fi, relax with you guys. I had a bit of a stressful weekend, stressful day, and I think maybe some of us are also feeling that back to work stress first thing on a Monday. So we're just gonna hang out. I've got some knitting with me. Knitting is probably my longest running, most consistent hobby. I am autistic, so I do tend to hyper focus on things and pick up special interests that I get incredibly attached to in a short period of time. But knitting has definitely been a special interest for me for, let's see, 16 years, I'm gonna say. I learned to knit when I was in college. I actually taught myself how to knit from a book called Stitch and Bitch. Um, Debbie Stroller, I think, was the author. This was in the dark times before, not before YouTube, but when YouTube wasn't really a thing. Um, I mean, nowadays people learn to knit mostly by, or teach themselves how to knit mostly through YouTube tutorials. I don't think I ever watched a YouTube tutorial until a couple of years ago. Even now, I don't tend to reach for them. If I can find written instructions, I'd rather do those. Um, I Tonight I am working on a sweater. This was a test knit for a new designer. She's been designing for a couple of years. It's called the Valkyria Day sweater because it has this lovely colorwork motif at the top of this Nyx. Um, it is a solid color in the pattern. However, I like pastel rainbows, and I'm making this for Toot, who also likes pastel rainbows, so I did a pastel rainbow. This is actually not a color changing yarn. Most people think it is, because I just managed to get lucky in my scraps and find a rainbow that blends really, really well together, but it is actually stripes. It's 8 rows of each color. Um, so I've done the yoke, I've done both sleeves. They have a corrugated ribbing. So again, this isn't the color changing yarn, this is just the stripes. I'll switch over here so you guys can see it a little bit bigger. So this is the corrugated ribbing, and corrugated ribbing just means that color change where you have the knits in your solid color and the pearls in your contrast color. It looks gorgeous. It is a pain in the butt to do. So of course I did it on both sleeves. And I am in the process of doing it for the bottom cuff of the sweater, the bottom hem of the sweater. So I am almost finished. I am on the last row of the orange stripe of the bottom of the sweater. So I have 15 and a half rows to go. No, 12 and a half rows to go. And then the bind off, which I'm doing an Italian tubular sewn bind off. Which it's a sewn bind off, which means I have to do a huge length of yarn, cut it, and then sew with a tapestry needle the bind off. It's a pain in the butt. It is probably my least favorite method, but it is the one that looks the best for 1x1 ribbing. Like you can see on here, you've got that lovely little rolled edge. It just looks really good. So it's worth it. It's just a pain in the butt. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. So we're gonna be working on this tonight. I was hoping to be actually on the bind off before our stream today, but that just didn't happen. So Uh, Now you can see in this that the neckline is incredibly high. Um, so this is actually going to become a V-neck after I take some pictures of it, because it was a test knit, so I have to knit it exactly as the designer said, and then take a bunch of pictures, and then send her the pictures, and then I can knit it the way that she will actually wear it. I don't think I can knit upside down, but at least this way you guys get to see some of the lovely colors. I'm so in love with how this yoke turned out. It's just gorgeous. The pattern got a little bit tricky down here with the tongues, but it's so worth it. So this is, he's a big boy. I was going through my list of whips. I was trying to figure out what to finish next, because I've got, for once I don't have startitis, which is when you just want to start all of the projects. I've got finishitis, I want to finish all of the projects. Has anyone had any good tea lately? I was going to make a cup this morning of dirty chai and completely spaced on it. The mug is still sitting under the hot water dispenser, and the tea bag is halfway out of the box of tea bags. So hopefully tomorrow I will manage to finish that cycle and actually get the tea bag into the cup. So this is, we have to change colors when we hit this lovely Jasper stitch marker, so not that far to go. I was kind of hoping to have this done, or at least on the bind off for this stream. But I haven't had a lot of knitting time in the last couple of days. I hyper focused on this and knit about 3 inches of it in a day. So I was like, oh, it'll be easy. And then, of course, I knit nothing for the next 2 days. But well, it's just knitting. It's just a hobby. It should be fun. I repeat to myself. But I was saying a little while ago, I was taking a look at my whip list, my works in progress list, and I want to get some stuff finished, because I have a whip problem. I like starting things usually, but I'm really feeling like I want to get some stuff done. So I was looking and I'm like, okay, I can do the usual thing where people look at like what's closest to being finished. But my goal is to reduce the amount of like physical space that my stash takes up. Because right now I have 2.5 bins of projects, plus whatever's in my drawers over here. And then I have 4 bins of yarn. Yeah, 4 bins of yarn. So I want to get those 2.5 bins of projects like emptied. So I decided that I'm gonna tackle my projects in terms of size. So finish off the big ones, and then go after the little guys. Because like a pair of socks takes up like this much room, but a sweater takes up much more. So actually, I can show you guys. I pulled out my next project that I'm gonna, because this one's gonna be done tomorrow or the day after. So the next big project I want to finish or really focus on is another sweater, but this time for me. I started this one back around about 8 months ago when I got sick, and I knit it like crazy for a little while, and then kind of set it to the side, but I'd like to finish it within the next month and a half. My yarn ball is going all over the place, and now it's all tangled up with my mic, but that's okay. So this is the sweater. This is the yarn. More yarn. More yarn. Okay. Here we go. This is the sweater. I've finished the yoke, and I have the sleeve set aside, and I have the body set aside. So I'll bring it up a little bit larger. So this colorway is actually, it's 2 yarns held together, so you can see it here. if I can get it untangled from around this stitch stopper. So it's actually 2 strands held together. So it's just a striping yarn, and I held them together to create all these different kind of marled bands of color. And there's a little bit of sparkle to it. I don't know how well the sparkle comes across. Now the problem is this yarn was a Loops and Threads special yarn. And the thing about Loops and Threads special yarns is that they're very lovely. I'm losing half of a stitch here. They're very lovely, but some of them are. But they're only available for a short period of time. And this was one of the special yarns like 4 years ago, pre-pandemic, I think. So it's discontinued. I've never seen another commercial yarn similar to it. So I got this one at Michael's. So I've done the yoke, and I still have to do the body and the sleeves. I have this cake, and I have this cake, and that's it. That's all the yarn I have. I'm definitely playing yarn chicken with it. So what I love about these cakes too is that they look completely different if you turn them over, just because of the way that the yarn lies. Like this one, you can barely see any pink on that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit the body first, and then I'm going to split whatever yarn I have left in half and do the sleeves. So it might be a short sleeve, it might be a 3/4 length sleeve, but it's at least going to be a body. So yeah, I'm really excited. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So that's my next focus project after I finish this sweater. And yeah, it should go pretty quick because this sweater is, it's on 3.5 millimeters. And this one is on 5 or 5.5. It's much, much larger. And yes, these are leftovers from Toot Stash. And that's why you've got the pinks, the pale greens, and the blacks and the grays, and the purples. So like this one especially is 100% Toot's aesthetic. Yeah, I love it. So yeah, gonna do the body first, and then we'll see how long the sleeves end up being. Could be a short sleeve. The good thing about the you're already planning to steal this sweater. I don't blame you. The good thing about the way that I've done it, so you can see that these are the sleeves. So I've already done about this much of the body, just about an inch. So these are the sleeves. I could theoretically just put these back on the needles and do like an inch more, and I'd have short sleeves. So even if I don't have a ton of yarn left, I can still do something sleeve wise. That's the great thing about raglan sleeve constructions. And it's got this little, so the pattern name is Flax and the designer is Tin Can Knits. You can literally knit this sweater for anyone from a newborn up to I think a 68-inch chest for an adult. They have instructions for every single size in between. It's pretty impressive. So the signature thing of Flax is that it has this garter stitch panel right there. So yeah, hoping to get this done in the next month and a half. And then Toot will have a lovely new sweater to wear. The other thing I'm working on, and this is going to be like one of those long-term projects, is I have my sister is moving into a new place and kind of starting a new chapter of life. So I threatened to make a really hideous granny square throw for her. So this is my, so I'm using, I have all kinds of leftovers. Like these are for the Viperidae. These are what I have left, but like I've got, I love this yarn. This is Hobby Amigo. It's a DK yarn. It's acrylic. It comes in 4 billion colors, and I have like 28 of them, leftover balls in various sizes. So that's what I'm using for this lovely Afghan. I have made, I need 117 squares, and I've made something like almost 80. So yeah, it will, so every other square is all right, Moon, thanks. So every other square is a flower like this, and then so we've got flower, and then a plain granny, and then a flower. So it'll be a checkerboard like that, and all pieced together with this black. So that's the very first strip of 13. I finished all the plain granny squares. I'm just working on the flowers, which I kind of wanted to get Viperidae done first because it's the same yarn, so then I can use the leftovers from the rainbow. So I've just been amassing the stack of flowers, pretty much. Throwing random colors together. Yeah. And then once I get all the colors together, I'm going to lay them all out. So I've only put together the first strip just to kind of get an idea of how wide I want the blanket to be. So I could do some math on how many squares I want. But I've just been making squares. They take me maybe 15-20 minutes to make a square. So I'll sit down, and then I need to weave in the ends. You can see I've got all kinds of loose strings. I should be weaving in the ends as I'm going, but as you can see, I'm not. So I've kind of told myself I can't make any more squares until I weave in the ends on these ones, which is why I haven't made any more squares in the last couple of days. But yeah, so math is a big part of knitting. It's a huge part of crafting, is doing math. It's everything, unfortunately. Especially, like you said, for gotta love inclusive patterns. Inclusive patterns are a result of a lot of math. But yeah, I design knitting patterns. And I usually, my first kind of go at them, I design for myself. And I'm what you call a large man. So I often have to design or bigger than most commercial patterns go to. So I'm very good at designing, at doing math to extend my range of sizes. It's becoming more and more of an issue. Well, it's becoming less of an issue because it's becoming more of a movement to have size inclusivity in patterns. So patterns going up to, more than 58 inches. A lot of patterns, especially if you're looking at the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the largest, they'd have 3 sizes max. So unless your bust was 36 inches, 40 inches, or 44 inches, you were kind of out of luck, unless you wanted to do a lot of your own math. So now a lot more designers are doing those larger sizes, and also smaller sizes. So it's great to see the inclusivity in the pattern world, for sure. When I design, I do start off by designing something for myself, and then I have to usually I'll scale it down for other sizes, and maybe do 1 or 2 sizes larger than mine. We were talking about this in my knitting survey. My knitting server that I'm part of, about how size medium is supposed to be like the middle one. So the next time I write a pattern, my medium is going to be my exact middle size, even if that's what would traditionally be a extra large or something like that. There is another project I'm working on. It's out of an absolutely lovely book called Alice Starmore's Air Knitting. But her patterns don't go above a size 42, like a 42-inch bust. So I had to get creative. This is what I'm working on. It's like a cabled rib. So I just did the bottom. So basically, what you have to do is you look at the pattern, you look at your yarn, you knit a small amount, and then you measure your stitches to see how many stitches per inch you're getting. And then you have to do math to figure out if you're getting so many stitches per inch and you're trying to knit something that's 60 inches around, how many stitches do you have to knit to get to 60 inches? And then you have to figure out, okay, so the designer said this many stitches gets to 44 inches. So if I want to get, you just have to do a lot of math. And then you have to make sure that the pattern works and that kind of stuff. And, you know, okay, it's written for an 8-inch yoke depth, but I prefer an 11-inch yoke depth, so I have to do more. It's so much math. It's you can wing it, but I don't recommend winging it. So if you're interested, I knit English, English style as opposed to continental, and I'm what's called a thrower. You can see that I drop the yarn between stitches and then I pick it up again. Although if I was just knitting straight, I'd keep the yarn in my hand like this, but I pick it up and wrap it around each stitch instead of tensioning it in this hand and kind of like scooping it with my hand like that, which is really hard to see on this dark gray yarn, but yeah. So one thing in colorwork knitting, like what we're doing now, is it's called yarn dominance. So whatever yarn is kind of held in at a certain position is going to be more prominent, or it's going to pop out more. But because I am a thrower and I drop the yarn between each stitch instead of keeping it tensioned, I don't actually have to worry about yarn dominance. And it took me a long time to figure that out, and I would always hear people talk about yarn dominance and how like much of a difference it could cause, and I was like trying really hard to make sure I always kept it in the same spot, and then it never made a difference for me. So but I guess I'm just an old crabby man at this point. I was talking to someone about how I have no desire to learn new techniques or no desire to, well, it's not even no desire to learn new techniques, because I'll learn a new technique if a pattern requires it, or if I think it's going to be an improvement on what I already know how to do, but I don't seek them out necessarily. Like I could learn how to knit continental and do the thing with holding both yarns and do the yarn dominance thing, but I don't really feel like it. My method works for me. I go pretty fast. I'm happy with it. Actually, the fastest knitters in the world are usually throwers rather than continental, even though most people say that continental can be faster than throwing. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just what your fingers are used to doing. Okay, we've reached the marker. Just whoop. One stitch there. might have noticed that I'm actually not using orange. It's a peach. And, sorry, I went far away from my microphone. I'm not actually using it. The orange in my rainbow is peach. And on its own, it reads very pink. Like you would say this is pink. But in the rainbow, it makes such a perfect pastel-y orange. And Toot actually picked out this dusty pink as the red, and then into the peach orange, and then into this buttercup color. I love it. So now we're joining in our buttercup. This is another aspect in which I deviate from established knitting people. I start when I'm changing yarn in stripes like this. I just kind of hook my yarn on like that. Hook my yarn on like that and start knitting with the new one. I don't do anything special to join it. Like you can see the end is just kind of chilling there. So I'll do a few stitches like this. I don't double up the knit. I don't graft it. I don't splice it. I don't do anything like that. I just start knitting with it, and then every single time as I start knitting, I start to doubt if I know what a rainbow is. But yes, yellow comes after orange. And then when I've gotten a few stitches in and this yellow is pretty secure on there, I will actually take these two ends, so the peach that I just ended and the buttercup that I just began, and I tie them together, which is anathema to most knitters. No knitting and no knots in knitting ever is something I find, but I just do a little overhand knot to basically make these be one thread, and then I will weave in these ends. And eventually, so this is my other sleeve, the inside. You can see that I've woven in the ends, and the knots are not that visible, and they're not like bumpy or rough or anything like that, and they're a lot more secure than if I had just started with the new yarn and not knotted it. I can't not knot. I knot. So we'll do 3 rows of the buttercup, and then switch again and do 3 rows of the mint, which is this one. 3 rows of the cornflower, I believe. And then this is light lavender. This is my crafting log. Craft log. So I actually do a physical craft log with all my pattern notes and project notes. I include pictures of my finished objects and usually stickers from whatever it is. And then I do like a little monthly wrap up like this. And it has my goals, which usually change within the first week of the month. Like these goals are no longer what my goals are. And then I kind of keep track of my stash in and out. And then I always have a list of whips. So you can see I do in fact have a whip problem. I have 16. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, that doesn't count. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 15 whips. Okay. So like I said, I want to start with the big stuff first. I've got 6 sweaters and a blanket that are kind of going to be the first thing up. And then I'm going to work my way down to, I've got a couple of shawls, and then a couple pairs of knee socks, And then the smallest thing I have is a pair of socks for myself, which is actually pretty cool. It's a vintage pattern, but I keep all of my notes in here, including my yarn bands. So this is the pullover that I showed, the one with the cabled rib. So there's all my notes on where I got the pattern and when I started it and what needles I'm using, and then this is the yarn label so I can find more of the same yarn. This was a hat I finished. It's got lots of pictures because I took lots of goofy pictures. So yeah, that's my crafting log. That's it for the video. If you like the content, please like the video. Subscribe for more cozy gaming and crafting. If you want to see more, join us on twitch.tv/thecozydh or join the community on Discord. Thanks for watching, and keep twinkling below, Starshine.